Come. TNT took Inge by the wrist and pulled her toward the bedroom door. She tried to break his arm by falling on him with the full weight of her 160 pounds. He countered her move quickly, taking her wrists in one hand, grabbing her ankles with the other, and carrying her like a tiger trapped by a hunter on safari. TNT threw her on the bed. She bounced up and leapt toward him, trying to punch him in the face. Her body was as lithe and strong as a middleweight boxer's, but every one of her punches missed, her clenched fists whistling through the air as she dodged. His face was still devoid of emotion. He touched her lightly as he avoided the blows, his long fingers grazing her breasts, dropping down to caress the curve of her hips, trailing across the inside of her thighs, rising to brush her lips. She began touching her more frequently, as if wanting her to understand that he could do with her as he liked, that he could reach any part of her body whenever he wished, no matter how violently she struggled. She was infuriated by the boredom on his face. He seemed to be telling her that her struggle was futile, that her strength and agility were of no use, that he was merely waiting for her to recognize the inevitability of the outcome. The atmosphere in the room changed. What had begun as a test of strength became a vicious struggle. Panting, her naked skin shining with sweat, Inge fought him with all her strength and guile, refusing him the easy surrender he seemed to expect. A whip lay at the edge of the bed. She had often used it on her slaves. At times, she had even allowed herself to be tied to the bed while a slave whipped her lightly, tingling her skin with the braided leather while other slaves titillated her with their tongues, licking delicately at her sex and nibbling at her breasts. Now Inge grabbed the whip and snapped it toward Twin's face. He seized the braided lash in mid-flight, catching it between thumb and forefinger. She jerked the whip from his grasp, thinking it an accident of timing, but twice more he caught the leather before it struck, finally pulling it from her hand. He advanced on her, moving from side to side to avoid the blows and kicks she aimed at him as he backed her into a corner. A mad desire to destroy him rose within her. This man had invaded her apartment and threatened to invade her body. She retreated, throwing vases and lamps at him. Twin caught them as they flew toward him, gently replacing each object in its proper position. A deadly battle was taking place, yet the room looked neat and untouched. She did not cry out during the fight. The entire struggle was taking place in absolute silence. Inge lifted a chair and threw it at him, retreating to the terrace. Its tiled floor was covered with mats, rugs, and silk cushions. Through the carved balustrade, TNT could see acres of formal gardens, the roofs of Al Wadi, the high purple and yellow hills of Jebel Al Akhtar. Ingeborg rested against the balcony railing. You'll have to come close enough to touch me. I'll strangle you. Suddenly he moved, pressing up against her, his penis rising to touch her white belly. For the first time, he kissed her full on the mouth. She bit him. Her hands rose to his throat and began to choke him. Calmly, he removed her fingers, bending her hands back with his left hand while his right ran silkily across her back. His fingers slid down into the crack between her buttocks and pressed firmly, drawing her more tightly against him. Enraged, she plunged her hands down, trying to seize his penis. He pushed her backward, her neck against the balustrade, her head hanging in space, crushing her with his weight. He began to kiss her, to lick her, his lips sucking at her breasts. Her nipples began to swell, hardening under his tongue. She tried to knee him and was forced to the floor, her thighs pried open, her body raised up toward him. She was panting harshly now, the sun full on her face, her eyes closed against the glare. You've come all this way just to rape me? She said hoarsely. Yes.